Hi, Leo. Whoo, whoo, whoo. Yes, I hear you. Yes, if you're wondering, it is the middle of the night. How did you know? There's an eclipse coming up on January 10th. You know when a cat doesn't know what it wants? It goes in and out of a room and steps on stuff over and over again and needs the same place over and over and over again, trying to get comfortable, trying to find a way to make it make sense. Oh, Leo, if it was done in a haste, if it was done quickly, it's over. And not just a little bit over, it's over in a way that's so, it could be public, it could just be obvious, it could be just within your community, it could be online, whatever it is, it's over. It just happened too fast. And the energy that we're in now, anything that happened fast is going to fall apart. This conjunction just won't have it, you know? I was accused in the Gemini video of trying to be seductive. No, someone said that when I look at myself when I'm recording, I have a tendency to look cross-eyed, which I guess is true. I just have really wide eyes, so that happens anyway. So I just started looking into the camera instead because whoever said it was right. But then apparently when I look into the camera, I'm trying to be overly seductive. I don't even know what I look like when I'm not looking at myself like this, so sorry, I guess. Anyway, Knight of Cups, I can share that with you because you're Leos, because you're probably like, girl, don't listen to them. I know, I'm just sharing. Knight of Cups, the Empress, we love it. 9 of Cups, Scorpio, 6 of Swords. Okay, so in terms of love, there will of course be another. Someone that satisfies you way more, Scorpio vibes, but it means that you have to completely leave something else now. This thing about lingering in places and having, you know, strings here and strings there, and this is a Leo thing, and 2020 is not having it. It's not having it. If what you really want is this Scorpio vibe, then go all in and do it. If what you want is to feel the Empress archetype and go through the Scorpio death rebirth process so you can become that archetype, wonderful, all for it. But none is possible without like a real cutting off of what you specifically have a very hard time doing, which is cutting all the strings. Leo will cut the strings, sure, but not all the strings. And I think part of the reason that you don't cut all the strings is because there's always this really romantic hope, you know, in the back of the mind that somehow those cups will unspill and be full again and be given to you again. And this is exactly the sort of almost cryptic romanticism that that causes so much havoc in your life. You know? You need something real. You need something real. Not something fast, not something based on the past, not a mistake from the past that you want to make again. You want something real. You need something real. And Leo's saying if it's not a mistake from the past and it's not a toxic something in the present, then what do you even mean? I mean that 2020 is changing things without permission, and it's not going to be polite, and it really doesn't care how long you've been holding on to whatever habit it is you've been holding on to. It's a going. And one of the things that you will need more than anything else is your rest. If you are not rested, this conjunction is going to get on top of you. And that January 10th eclipse is going to make you super weepy and nervous because things are going to move and change so quickly. So quickly. Is it very necessary for you to speak on how you feel right now? Is it necessary for you to express yourself? Is it necessary for you to put labels on what you feel, thereby reducing the activity in the amygdala and calming down the part of the brain that's going to make you implode? So let's talk about failure-based learning. I was watching a masterclass on game theory, and in it he mentioned, I don't remember who he is, but the guy who made The Sims, he was talking about failure-based learning, and he said that he gave an example of a professor who was teaching pottery, and to half the students he said, make as few as possible, but really study everything and plan and do your best. And when you're ready, make one thing, and that's it. And there's no pressure. Then to the other group of students, he said, make as many as you can, as often as you can, as fast as you can. And at the end of the semester, the students who had been told to make as many and as fast as they could had the nicest things, because they had failed so many times and learned from every failure. Whereas the ones who had gotten all the time in the world and had planned it out so beautifully, and really had a lot of time to live in the theoretical, they of course didn't fail, but they didn't learn anything either. So if you feel like, oh man, every month it's like we're falling on our face, yeah, well, those students who were making them, fast and easy, may have felt throughout the semester like, what am I even doing? I'm making the same one jug all over, over and over again. I'm not even making it right. It looks like shit. Like, what is this? Like, how am I learning anything? But through that process of first frustration and some sort of maybe embarrassment that you don't know how to do something, once you get over the initial sting of being wrong, of failing at something, at not being a failure, but failing at something, you start to see the extreme benefit of it, because there are certain things that you'll just never learn if you don't fail at it. So you can see life up until now as a failure-based learning. And now you walk into 2020 knowing how to make the perfect jug, because you've made all the wrong ones. But only if you remembered and learned from your mistakes. And if you didn't, this eclipse is about to remind you. Let's look at these cards. Yeah? Love you. Hi, Leah. Welcome to part 2 of your reading. All right. So the Ace of Swords and the Page of Swords. So right away you're thinking, yeah, Ace of Swords sounds about right. Either you feel like somebody used it on you, or you were forced to use it on someone. Page of Swords, there might have been a lot sharper dialogue there than you would have liked.
Excuse my voice. I have had a bit of love-based insomnia, which is to say that I like someone so much that I find it hard to sleep. Shut up, please. Okay, moving forward. So that's why I sound like a frog. Excuse me. And then we move on to these cups. So whenever Leo has to deal with this energy, okay, we have, well, we don't have to have the nostalgia talk. We've had it many times, but you can see by how much the Eight of Cups comes up for you that it is a constant struggle. That's what I mean about cutting the strings, but not all the strings. Now, here's the secret about that. If you cut almost all the strings, Leo, the strings you have left get real strong. Because now all your thought and energy about that person or that thing is traveling down one conduit and not many. So instead of making your problem easier, instead of distancing yourself effectively, you've now made the bond even stronger. And that may seem comical until we put this in perspective and have the realization that the person on the other end of that very strong current that you are creating, connection you are creating, the person on the other side of that may not deserve it. But also in that there is a joyous feeling, because imagine how well you'll be able to connect with someone who does deserve it. And I don't want to linger too much on these first three cards because it's just not accurate for how your year is going to go or how your month is going to go. The Ace of Swords, the Page of Swords, the Eight of Cups, it does a pretty good job of explaining everything that happens before the eclipse. But as of January 10th, things really change. And it's not because, sometimes we feel like, oh, well, I've done this and because of that, this is happening. No, this stuff just falls on you. This is stuff that is given to you. This is the fulfillment of that wish that you have as a Leo for a watery contentment. Right? But it's a place that demands from you a very high level of esteem and respect and love for yourself, which is why those first three cards are so important. And if your breakup, your ongoing divorce, whatever you've got going on up there is very public, it behooves you even more, right? To want something more than the Eight of Cups. Okay, well, I tried that. Now I realize what I need is someone who has the Nine of Cups mentality. And what's that? Nine of Cups mentality is someone who doesn't bother to look if they are satisfied within themselves. They're just satisfied that everyone on their team is satisfied. And in their happiness, they find their own happiness. And that's a very leonine thing to be and want. And that speaks to a broader question. In 2020, Leo isn't trying anymore, hopefully not, to do what looks right. To do what feels right for a Leo is really difficult because Cancer is your subconscious. So for you to give in and give power and action and agency to the part of yourself that isn't just feeling based, but it is the most feeling sign in the zodiac. And then you have the most feeling sign in the zodiac in a place that is very murky, where we really have no idea what's down there. That's what you have to access. That's how you you know, your fears, your deeper concerns, your fear of abandonment, it comes from this Cancerian place. It's very emotional. It wants way more than anyone who's dealing with you or talking to would ever know. The deep need that Leos are feeling at the moment to be understood, held, to be in a couple, to be loved, to be intimate. It's very like high. It's running very high. But again, not to be a downer, but don't let that put you in bad situations. To me, this looks like a graph of if you don't trust it, this happens. If you don't trust it, this happens. If you don't trust it, this happens. But if you do trust it, you just hop, skip, and jump over all the landmines. It's like an intentionality landmine field. An intentionality minefield. I like that. All right, Leo, let's get into this extended right now. Love you, love you. Tickets for London are below. That satsang is in March. It will have a meet and greet. We will be at the Tarot Theater, and then we'll go across the street and have a party. Love you.
Hello. Okay, Leo, welcome to your extended. And here is the bottom of the deck. And let's go. So, you know how just before I was talking about agency. This is a card of great agency. Aries have the ability to put everything to the side and be the kind of fire that I think in some sense they look to you and wish they could be your kind of fire, and I think you have a tendency to look back at them and wish that you had their kind of fire. And I can see why, because Aries are self-starters, whereas Leo is the roaring fire that has been stoked and kept and aired and really, nurtured into being the fixed flame. Aries doesn't need that nurturing, and for that reason, oftentimes cannot give that nurturing aspect either. Anyone with an Aries mother is shaking their head vehemently right now. But what does that mean for you and this Ace of Swords card here at the beginning? Well, to cut something, someone, or an idea out requires a high level of agency, because we are built down to our genetic structure to be social creatures. We want to make other people happy. We want to fit in. We want the exact opposite of the Ace of Swords, and in many respects, the opposite of the Emperor. The Emperor is a solitary figure who sits on a singular throne, as is the Aries archetype, represented here by the rams. As is the blood, represented by his robe. It's a singular thing that keeps us alive. It's a singular fire. This is the opposite of community. It is the opposite of communal living. It is ruling over the many with the will of the one. This is not Leo's natural turf. You are a pack animal who believes deeply in community. And for that reason, oftentimes you can be pulled into some really gnarly situations, as a pack animal often is. I refer you back to Carlito's Way. A favor will kill you faster than a bullet. And then we move to your polarity, your axis. Another card of great agency and nurturing of the self. All Aquarians, if there is anything at all that they share in common, because they are so different from each other, have this one principle that binds them. And it has to do with a fierce need for open space. I think fixed air is always looking for a way out. And so they're constantly in need of creating that way out so they can breathe. And in whatever this situation at the top here is, you need breath. You need to be able to breathe. You need to, I don't know when the last time is that you even wandered close to this particular reflecting pool or thought that you were worthy enough to put your hands into it, let alone put a vessel into it, let alone pour your hopes and dreams into it. But now the cards would like for you or suggest that you do exactly that. That you do exactly that. Perhaps it is time to go back in the most difficult moments. Perhaps the eclipse for you should be all about going back to this wishing well. Again, how long has it been, Leo, since you wished for something and didn't do so with the cynical predisposition that it would never happen? I mean, really wished from your heart and believed in it. Believed to a certain extent that your wish was valid and deserved to be granted. You remember that when you were a kid?